Kevin's already in the cellar door, so you can see him there and enjoying no one in the cellar door because we're closed, of course. Yeah, but and we're pretty sad that we're closed, and so to have this format introduced to Doc Adams was an amazing situation and an opportunity, you know, and that's why I jumped straight on with Kevin and Cheryl to be able to come into your houses and showcase our wines, and so welcome. Yeah, normally you're being wrapped around my big hug, and so now it's time for you guys to bring me into your lounge rooms and kitchens. So thank you very much. So I guess Doc Adams as a company started in 2005 when myself and the Dr. Darren Waters got together, and his wife Libby, who's a doctor as well. So the two names were formed, Doc and then Adams, and of course I've been in the region for some 27 years now, and so we've learnt how to make McLaren Vale wine only just this year. So previously to that, I worked in Coonawarra and regions of Melbourne and Victoria, and I've been in the wine industry for over 30 years. So this is an amazing format, very new for an old dog like me. Yeah, and you can teach someone old pretty new tricks. So particularly when there's a COVID virus occurring around the world. But no, look, thank you very much again. Our company is based in McLaren Vale, and our philosophy is family run and family owned, and we employ approximately 10 to 15 people, and they're all a part of the family. They've been with us all these years, and we our philosophy is to look at varieties from around South Australia, particularly Pinot Gris, which it particularly grows well in the Adelaide Hills, not so much in McLaren Vale. So I have a series of growers that I deal with in the Adelaide Hills. It's a cooler climate, and we can produce lovely Pinot Gris from that area. And then the reds, of course, come from McLaren Vale. We have some 15 to 20 growers in our program, and once again, they're all part of the family as well. So. Yeah, we have a lovely cellar door when it's opened, and you can visit it with, and we have do-it-yourself platters where you serve, you know, or select your own meats, local meats and cheeses and biscuits, and we have homemade sourdough bread, and you buy it and we prepare it and bring it back to your table. So yeah, it's a lovely area, great area for children to run around in as well, and we were named the Cellar Door of the Year 2 years ago, so that was a great accolade. Yeah, so, but I want to throw a little challenge to you, and I was thinking about it all day, because these exercises I think need to be interactive, and so I'm going to put a challenge to everyone that the best description of any wine that you'll have tonight, and that's why I mentioned to a customer just before to get their pens ready, and if you can throw yourself into the ring and explain or describe the best wine, I'm talking colour, aroma, and the palate. If you can just string out a little, say, 15 to 17 word sentence describing one of my wines, you'll get a bottle of wine free, and I'll personally pack it myself. So there's a little challenge for everyone, just to write down a descriptor, and don't copy the person next to you, or don't get a James Halliday book. It's got to come straight from your appraisal. Okay, so I think
so again, Adam, that was color, palate, and I'm just going to write it in the chat here. What
color, aroma, and palate. Yeah.
Got it.
The color of the wine, what they think it is. I'll give you a little hint. The white wines are generally straw or golden. The rosé is generally light strawberry colour, and then the reds are dark brick red or deep black. Okay, so there's a little hint for your colour straight away. So Yeah, so when people come into the cellar door, we obviously welcome them, and we bring them into our tasting arena. We like to talk to them about different things and what they've been up to for the day. There's some 45, 46 cellar doors in McLaren Vale, so there's lots to visit. And we normally kick off with a sparkling or a white wine. So the first wine we have is the Pinot Gris, and you've got the samples there that we prepare, but you haven't seen the label. And so there's the label there. You may have seen it perhaps online. The label represents what we call the black cockatoo range. And you can see those little black cockatoos there. It's a colourful range. It has 3 wines in the range, and they depict the colours of McLaren Vale, the hills, the lovely vineyards, the ocean that's not too far away, and of course that magnificent blue sky that you get in McLaren Vale. And of course we have these black cockatoos that fly over every night at around about 5 o'clock, and they deafen your ears and black the sky with their presence. And one of the beauties is that they actually scare away some of the birds that chew and bite on the berries. Yeah, so which are called starlings, and they were introduced by the English back many centuries ago. So or many hundreds of years ago. So the black cockatoo range has the Pinot Gris, the Rosé, and then the Shiraz. And then, of course, we have the GSM in the, we'll get to this, the GSM is in the premium range, and then also the Cabernet as well, so the 5 wines. So you're seeing 2 ranges of wines. The cockatoo range sell for $20, $25, and then the black labels sell for about $30, $35, depending on discounts and that we do. So does everyone have the Pinot Gris? Everyone has the Pinot Gris. So I guess one of the things that we talk about with our customers in the cellar door is where our taste buds are, and it took me probably 5 years at university to learn this, and I'm going to try and talk to you about it in about 30 seconds. But on the tip of your tongue, you experience sweetness. Across the middle of your tongue or your palate, you experience acidity and richness. And then at the back of the palate, you experience sourness and bitterness. And so when you're looking at a wine, if you're tasting a sweet wine, you're going to get your sensations at the front. And then if you're tasting a drier wine, it'll be more at the back. And of course, one of the worst things that as a winemaker that we can do is make a wine sour and bitter. So we don't want to go all the way to the back of the palate. Okay, so there's just a little hint for you in 30 seconds that took me many years to learn. And so when we look at the wine, it's the Pinot Gris. It's the Adelaide Hills 2018, and it's golden straw colour, golden straw. It's pretty clear. And then just looking at aromas, when we swill the wine around like this, you're bringing air into the glass, and so you're exploding some of those aromas back up, repelling them back up through the glass. So for many that kind of think that this is a little bit sort of silly, there is some science to it. So that's bringing air in, it's swilling it around and allowing aromas to exclude through the glass there. So what we're getting on the nose is almost like a passion fruit or a guava, fruit-like aromas, that are somewhat cool climate, because there's a little bit of pea or asparagus, kind of, the juice of an asparagus tin that you generally tip out before you use the asparagus. Next time smell it, and you'll get to understand, green peas and asparagus, and that's typically cool climate white wine that we use, particularly New Zealand and those really colder areas. So we're getting those aromas, and then of course transferring it onto the palate. just swill it around your mouth and just leave it in your mouth for a period and swallow small bits at a time, just small sort of bits at a time. And that's going to give you the whole sensation of your mouth filled with wine, instead of just taking a swill and swallowing it like water or a soft drink. So what we're getting on there is the transfer of those fruitful tropical fruits, and it's kind of sitting on my palate around about the middle, and kind of the left and right of my mouth, and feeling well, pretty nice, quite fruitful, and it's sitting there nicely. It has some acidity that you generally get kind of across the palate, and that's good with a white wine. That means that the white wine is very sound if you're getting that that acidity. Yeah. So, does anyone want to make a comment at all about our first wine? Cheryl, is that the format? Do you want to take comments, or yeah?
So what we're going to do is we are going to, while you're enjoying that on your palates, we're going to launch a poll, which allows you to rate the wines in terms of the 5 types of tasting notes, which are appearance, aroma, body, taste, and finish. And as you can tell, I'm not that sophisticated. I do not have all 5 of those memorized. I love wine, and I just rate 5s on everything. But if you have a moment, jump onto your computer. You can rate the wines. If you're not sure on a particular thing, just rate the finish. We'll make sure that we get some ratings back to Adam. Don't worry, it's completely anonymous, so he won't know if you told him, if you rate something a 1.
And also, Cheryl, just in addition to that, I've been in the game so long now that if people don't like my wine, that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. So there's you can I can tell you now, you've got 20 to 30 people in your room or in your cellar door at the moment, and you're going to get 30 different opinions. Yeah, so that's the beauty of wine, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. You're allowed to not like a wine. That's totally okay.
Absolutely.
I've hated wines that have gotten like gold, what do you call them? The gold stars, the gold stickers,
gold
hundreds
medals?
of them. Yeah, the gold medals. I should know these things. The gold medals. And I'm like, that's not for me. But that's okay, because you only get to order the wines you like. Yeah. So far, though, we haven't got any 1s yet for you, Adam. So.
Oh, that's good. So with just a very brief one on the Pinot Gris, just to finish it off. For those that don't really understand or know the Pinot Gris and Pinot Grigio situation, Pinot Gris is the grape variety, and it's made in the French style, which is a little bit deeper in colour and more richness on the palate. And Pinot Grigio is Pinot Gris, but it's made in the Italian style. So it's made in the more acidity and a little water-like in colour. Okay, so if you go to the store, and a liquor store or whatever, and you're having a Pinot Grigio and it's darker in colour, then the winemaker, in my opinion, doesn't know what they're doing. So Pinot Gris should be in the French style, which is that colour there, a little bit darker straw-like and more flavour. Pinot Grigio is more water-like and a lot more acidity to it. Yeah.
Look at that! I'm learning so many things.
So there's a little hint for you guys. Yeah. So next time you're in the doing a tasting and someone serves you a Pinot Grigio with a really dark colour, then you can challenge them.
Oh. Well, we've got a 10 out of 10 rating for the body, so
that's good.
Specifically, Doc Adams' body.
Cheers.
All right. Well, cheers to that, guys. Yeah. I like a couple of your must be posing for photos, because I see you kind of smiling at the camera holding your wine. This is excellent. I hope you're sharing that on social. All right. We will share the results here. And so if you have any, oh, here we go. Yes, we've got sharing the results. So Adam, you can see some of the results here.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right. Well, perhaps we move on to our next wine. Sounds like we had a lot of appreciation for this one. We even had somebody who said that they were not normally a white drinker, but they really enjoyed this one. So this is excellent. What's next up, Adam?
So Cheryl, this next one is my rosé, and
Ooh.
it's 2018 McLaren Vale rosé, and you can see once again it's part of that Black Cockatoo range series, and you can see the hills and the ocean, which is these sort of blue stripes, you know, and of course that it's quite autumn in its colour. So part of the range showed sort of autumn, summer, and winter. So there was sort of a little story behind behind our lovely Black Cockatoo range. Now, when you pour this in the glass, what you'll see, and I'm sure probably people are doing it now, what you'll see is a lighter pink, almost bronze kind of colour, which is a very different colour to some of the rosés that you do see in and around Australia. I know that I've been making rosé for maybe 15 or 16 years, and some of the early rosés I made were a lot light red in colour, whereas these are now the ones I've been making last 4 years are very bronze and very different. And it was a result of a trip that I had to France and looking at rosés from the south, and of course, so the colour is very different. It's very light and it's very summery, of course, as a drink. People really enjoy it. At the cellar door in summer, it's a great cellar in summer. So when you look at the wine, straight away you get strawberries. There's like an overwhelming sort of strawberry aroma protruding from the glass, and there's sort of some richness there, and there's almost a hint of sweetness, but there is no sugar, in fact, in the wine. It's the sugar comes from the fruit, wonderful sort of fruit. Now, I made this rosé with Mataro, which is another great synonymous variety in the region that goes with GSM. It's the M in GSM, and Mataro is a Rhone variety from France, and it has lovely body and also tannin as well. So what we do is we get the grapes that come in. They're around about 12.5% sugar, which is, if I was picking it for a red wine, it'd be probably 14. So they come in a little earlier, and then what we do is we crush the grapes, and then I extract the juice off the crushed grapes, and the juice goes straight into refrigeration tank, and it's made exactly the same way as white wine is made. And so, and then the skins go off into another ferment somewhere else. And so you're picking up the colour from the skins of the red grapes, and that's where the rosé. If you want to make a deeper, darker rosé, then you leave more skins in the juice before you take the juice away and refrigerate it or chill it down. So yeah, you're getting that strawberry. There's sort of a hint of richness as well, you know, on the palate, and it's quite pronounced. Then, sorry, on the nose. And then upon the palate, you're also getting now a lovely feel of acidity and some richness at the back of the palate from the Mataro, and then there's some sweetness at the front. So you're getting this transfer all the way along from front to back, back to front, and it's quite an enjoyable wine, particularly on a really hot day when it's chilled down. And of course, it's raining out here at the moment, so this wine was only in the fridge for about sort of half an hour. So one of the things with wines that are chilled, sometimes you don't get the full aromas and also the full flavours. So just trial it at home. If you're a person that loves cold wine, then obviously keep the wines in your fridge for a longer period. But if you're looking for more flavour, take the wines out, you know, and let them sort of get to room temperature for half an hour. Often when wine's too cold, you can't get flavour from them. So just trial that one day, guys. Yeah, you'll find that that's quite an interesting exercise. Yeah.
I'm often doing it the opposite way, Adam, where I forget to put it in the fridge and then I put it in the fridge for 30 to 45 minutes before I drink it. Does that work too?
Yeah, look, it does. Yeah, because it's actually, sometimes if it's been in the fridge for 2 days, it gets really, really cold and chilled. Of course, the reds, don't put them in the fridge unless you live in Northern Territory. It's 45 degrees every day. Yeah, but the reds obviously should be room temperature. Yeah. So.
Who else forgets to put their whites in the fridge sometimes? Thumbs up. Yeah, we got a couple. Now, Adam, we do have a question from Laura, who's wondering what kind of grapes are in this one.
I mentioned before Mataro, or you may know it as Mourvedre. Yeah, so it's a French variety from the Rhone Valley. Yeah. That was lucky. You probably heard him then. Up, come on, up here. Come on. Up here. Up. Here he is. Here he is. Buddy. Oh, no, he doesn't want it. Come on, up. Come on. No, doesn't want to be interviewed. Here's the fortune. Come here.
Does Fortune or Lucky have a job on your winery? What did they do?
Yeah, they're generally just around the winery and chasing birds and different other rabbits. There's plenty of rabbits around at the moment, so they'd like to get involved with that.
Okay, so we have the poll up, guys. So if you have a moment, give us a rating. And I hope that you're all thinking of your favorite descriptions. Just a reminder, that was 15 to 17 words description of your favorite wine, where you describe the color, aroma, and palate. So if you have your pens and paper ready, be writing those down. And we do have the poll up right now. So just take a moment to vote so we can give some feedback. Don't worry, 100% anonymous. Feel free to rate 1 or 5 or anything in between.
And the best, most inventive description gets the bottle of wine of their choice.
Of their choice.
Their choice.
Whatever you would like. Whatever was your favorite one tonight. Oh, this one seems to be a favorite. We're definitely getting lots of 4s and 5s here. And again, guys, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to just throw them in the chat there and I will ask Adam.
So how's your weather been in Sydney today, the last few days?
Thumbs up or down, guys? Yeah. We're going to go with a maybe on that one. It was raining all day yesterday.
Yeah.
Today, I think, was a bit better.
We've had a very wet 3 or 4 days here, sort of breaking 25-year records at the moment.
Jackie says it's been good indoor COVID weather.
So for those that don't know McLaren Vale that well, we're half an hour south of Adelaide, and really close to the ocean, and that's what gives, in my opinion, gives the grapes a wonderful acid retention, because at night time we get the cooling influences off the ocean just over my shoulder here, and that cools the day down, because when it's very hot during the summer days, the acidity tends to fall out of grapes, and of course if they get a chance to hydrate, the vines through a cold night, they'll retain the acidity, and that's really important from a winemaking perspective, to have retained acidity. We don't want to. The worst thing we want to try and do is add acidity into with a processed bag of 20 kilos kind of thing. Yeah. So it's natural acidity is a wonderful thing. So McLaren Vale does have that. It also has. I've been lucky enough over the years to make wine from over 100-year-old vines. Has some lovely old vines that are sprouted around the area, and of course its food's tremendous. Yeah, it has wonderful reviews with restaurants, and and when they're opened, of course, and then plenty of pubs through the little towns of Wollonga and McLaren Vale and through Kangaroola, and so you get a great steak there. And of course, glass McLaren Vale red. You don't get much other red wine in the region. So just a little plug for my tourism guys that always say, when you're trying to talk about McLaren Vale around the world, Adam, make sure you give the whole region a plug.
Awesome. So we're just sharing the results from the poll there, Adam. I don't know if you can see those. We got lots of 4s and 5s.
That's good. Looking good.
Looking good, exactly. And I'm just tweeting our photo here.
So Kevin's in our cellar door. No one's come in yet, Kevin.
Kevin, you're there all by yourself. Okay, we will end the poll here. Oops, no, that's my bad. How's everyone doing so far? Thumbs up? Maybe a cheers?
Empty glasses.
Empty glasses already?
We need the next one.
All right, let's go on to the next one then, Adam.
Problem, Cheryl.
The people have spoken.
Well, this one's the third wine in that Cockatoo range, and that's of course the 17 McLaren Vale Shiraz. And having made wine, Shiraz particularly, which is a great love of mine through the region for 27 years now, it never ceases to amaze me because it's always very different from year to year. And the 17 vintage was a interesting year, because we actually had a little bit of rain through the harvest period, but it didn't really affect grapes. But I can tell you now, as soon as I poured that into there, I'm just getting aroma, chocolate and blackcurrant aromas straight away, and that's pretty synonymous with most of my Shiraz wines, because I use the same growers to bring consistency of aroma and taste. Yeah, so when you look at the colour of red wine, now we're sort of getting a little bit more serious. The whites and the rosés are fun, but this is kind of the serious stuff now. The best way to understand the colour of a red wine is just put it on like a background there, and you can kind of see there just up against the white of my pad there. And you're looking around the outsides of the wine, and what you're looking for is lovely opaque, dark, deep red, lovely, almost black kind of colours all the way to the edge. If it's a little brown around the edge, that means it's looking a little oxidised, or it could be on its way out. Okay, so when you look at this wine here and up against the white, it's a lovely red colour all the way to the edge of the glass, around about here, and so it goes all the way to the edge. Also, to understand the red wine's alcohol, just sort of swill it around the glass, and you'll notice what we call legs that sort of come down the glass here, and they're sort of dripping down either slowly or quickly, and that's very similar to what you find in a whiskey. Something with high viscosity. Okay, so that's what we call viscosity, and you can see that this wine here has lovely legs, and it's sitting at around about 14.5%. So one would expect that to be like that in this sort of situation with the legs in the wine. So that's a good sign. It's a good sign from a colour perspective. We know we can already get some aromas, so we're kind of bringing ourselves to a situation of, oh, this wine is really interesting. So So on the nose, once again, black currant, licorice, really sort of dark cherry-like chocolate kind of aromas, and then transferring it onto the palate. You know, we're getting some really grippy tannins that are sitting on the palate, and they're working around your mouth. It's not a short finished wine. It's quite long lasting on the palate. It's a lovely, lovely feel. You can taste a bit of that black currant, which is what you've smelt in the glass. And so for a wine that is where you're picking up aromas, and then of course you're tasting them, then that's almost perfection, because that's how the wine should be, extremely stable, and it should be able to transfer that aroma onto the palate. Yeah, so that's drinking pretty well. I haven't had that wine for a while, so I'm pretty pleased with that wine. Yeah, it's 217 in a pretty difficult year. As 2018 was a much better year. And having made wine in about 5 or 6 different regions of Australia, McLaren Vale is probably the most consistent, and that's why I've spent so long here. I think the days of making bad wine are over for me. I like to make consistently good ones.
Adam, how long have you been in McLaren Vale?
This is my 27th vintage. Yeah, so so you weren't born, Cheryl. Yeah.
I sure was. But thank you. I'll take it. Okay, so we've got the poll up again. So please go ahead and rate the appearance, aroma, body, taste, and finish. And we do have a question here, Adam.
Fire away.
We are wondering, do the legs
yep.
of the wine relate to alcohol content in any way?
No, it does, yes, because it relates to viscosity, which is alcohol. Yeah, so if the wine doesn't have any legs, it means, and it's got 14 or 15% on the label, it means that the winemaker's pulling your leg. Yeah, so this has very good viscosity, and it means the wine's truthful. Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I do like a truthful wine. And legs for days. Oh, it seems we are liking this. That we are liking the Shiraz.
That's good. It's I suppose when I look at all the wine, it's the most widely planted variety in the region, and so all the celladors would have maybe 3 or 4 Shiraz wines on their list. I know we have 3, and they're all ranged, from $15 all the way to $75. So
wow.
Yeah.
And what's the difference between them?
It's a good question, Cheryl. A lot of people ask that. The difference is the age of the vines. So if the age of the vines is younger, I can buy the fruit cheaper. My $75 wine comes from 100-year-old vines, so I've got to pay more for the fruit. And then, of course, it's the oak that we use as well. So some of the cheaper wines see less oak, and some of the more expensive wines see more oak. Yeah. So, and it's time in oak as well. So time is dollars, and so if I can get the wines out earlier and quicker, then they're cheaper. Hence the white wines and the rosés are $20, and then of course the red wines are more expensive because I've got to store them. I've got to work with them for 3 or 4 year period.
Just want to give a shout out to Lisa and her, I think, golden lab there, and we've got Jackie with her black cat. So shout out to all the pets. Oh, we've got Fraser with I'm going to say a doodle something. Some kind of poodle, very adorable. Adam, will Lucky give us an appearance?
Come here.
Oh, and we've got iPad 3 with a pug up here.
Okay.
Oh, and Nikki. Oh, everybody show your pets. This is excellent. We're gonna take another photo. Adam, you're gonna have to bring Lucky into the photo.
Come on.
Lucky's famous, getting into the wine dog book. Aw, there he is.
Hang on.
Say
There he is.
hi. Oh, this is making up for me not having my own pet. Oh, we've got Finn down here.
Mosh. Fortune.
Oh, this is great. Hopefully you're enjoying your good times with your pets and not sharing any wine with them. All right, so the polls are in.
Like election night, isn't it?
I know. We've got the results, ladies and gentlemen. The results are in, and sounds like we like the wine. Shall we move on to our next variety?
Sure. So the next variety is GSM. So if you look at the black label, and this it's very difficult to see on here, but you can kind of see some characters there that are at the back of the label. That was the inaugural label that we bought out in 2005, and it's actually a print, a Hogarth print. And William Hogarth was a painter in the 1700s in London. Of course, he was a cartoonist, and so he used to paint cartoons, and they were funny cartoons, yet they looked quite serious. And of course, this painting of what they call a midnight drink is of parliamentarians drinking and getting sloshed. And the guy in the middle there, he's the Prime Minister. And so that was kind of a cartoon that went around London in the early 1700s. So we kind of liked that because we thought it was pretty fun, and that was sort of on our first labels when we first brought them out. So they now encompass our black label range. And of course, this one's 2015, which we sell some older wines at Cellador because we want to showcase our talent of making wine. And this is a 2015, drinking exceptionally well because I have had this wine just recently as well. So once again, it's Grenache, which does very well in the region, Shiraz, and then of course Mataro or Mourvedre, which is what I made the rosé from. So again, we appraise the colour. We just sort of look at the colour and sort of see, that it's showing some lovely colours all the way from the bottom of the glass to the top. There's no brown appearance, no cloudy appearance. It's lovely, clear and crisp and red and black, all of those sort of colours that it should be. And then on the nose, just a little strained, sorry, it's not leaping out as much as the Shiraz, I must admit. And I'm getting sort of spicy. There's some spiciness there, which generally comes from the Grenache. Grenache gives you spice, and it also gives you a little bit of sweetness on the palate as well. So, and Shiraz will give you dryness. So it's sort of combining sweet and dry and spice and all those things, I guess, that chefs do. That's the way we make great wines, is combine all those different sort of senses from the tip of your tongue to the back of your tongue. So if you're looking at that, it's quite spicy. There's sort of a little bit of mocha, coffee mocha, little bit, like your morning sort of cappuccino kind of thing. So, which there's probably been a few of those drunk over the last sort of 8 weeks of this deadly virus that we've had. And transferring it onto the palate, there's a lovely softness and almost like a velvetness sliding along your palate, and of course very long lasting and has a wonderful mouthfeel. And of course, getting back to those legs, because I like talking about legs, you can see that there's plenty of viscosity, which means the wine's, you know, big and rich and being made to what I've put on the label, which is 14.5%. So it's pretty easy to get those kind of wines here in McLaren Vale because you get plenty of sunshine. So yeah. So GSM does very well. This is James Halliday did mention in his recent books that this is what McLaren Vale should do at its best, and to leave the Shiraz to the Barossa, and McLaren Vale does the best GSM in Australia. So I've got to kind of agree with him, don't I?
And is yours the best, would you say?
Well, of course, yeah. Won many trophies, Cheryl. Yeah, we won a trophy in 2010, the major wine trophy from a GSM. We've won 3 gold medals with our 15. The 13 GSM won 6 medals, silver, bronze, and gold, and got 95 out of 100 with Halliday, and this 15 won an international wine award as well. So, yeah.
Tell us a bit about that process. Do you submit them? Do you send your wines somewhere, or do you take them and go enter into a contest?
Yeah, the wine shows will have ceased at the moment, obviously because of COVID, but wine shows come up regularly. I think there's some 250 wine shows in Australia, and I wouldn't even guess how many internationally. And you apply just online and get the paperwork, fill them out, pay your registration fee, and hope for the best. Yeah, I've won gold, silver, and bronze with wines that I never would have thought would have won anything, and then the wines that have won that I would have thought would win everything didn't win anything. So it's a very subjective game that you play, and but it's fun when you win a trophy or a gold medal. Yeah, that night is enjoyable.
We seem to be quite split on the chat here. We've almost got a war breaking out between the Shiraz and the GSM.
Okay. Once again, 20, 30 people are going to give you 20, 30 answers.
Mm-hmm. Do we have a poll going for the GSM? Should we have a poll going for the GSM, or did I miss it? Am I like too many wines in and I'm just missing the poll?
So of our crew tonight, how many drink wine on a regular basis? Can we get a show of hands? Or new to tasting wines, learning, wanting to know more?
Oh, got lots of excited faces. This is great. Lisa says this is her first ever wine tasting. That is impressive.
Well done.
Lisa looks very happy about this. I'm excited for you, Lisa.
That's good.
Also, I found the poll, guys. Sorry, my bad. Like I said, couple wines in, and I lose the screen. So please vote. I'm watching the poll now. We'll share the results shortly. This is what happens when you work for a wine company. It's great. No regrets.
I first started my wine career selling wine in Melbourne, and I used to have a whole boot of a company car full of Champagne, Burgundy, Bordeaux, and magnificent Australian wines, and I used to come home and take my pick. So I was brought up on some pretty good wines.
What was your first favorite wine?
I think this is going to go back a long way, but a wine called Matus, and it was a rosé, and so yeah, and they came from Portugal.
From Portugal. What's your favorite wine region outside of Australia?
Oh, I think the Rhone Valley in France, yeah, and and I think I'm pretty partial to a couple of regions in Portugal, and I worked in the Napa for a year, so I've got a little soft spot for the Napa. Particularly their Cabernets are sensational.
I have to say we are still having a bit of a war here between Team Shiraz and Team GSM on the chat.
I think the Shiraz might be ahead.
I have to say I'm really enjoying this. It's great. Adam, are you watching this?
I just saw that, and I think the Shiraz is ahead. The
Shiraz is ahead?
The GSM's a more complex wine, and when I say complex, it's sort of it does better when it's decanted. So.
Ooh, decanted. Who here has a decanter at home? Thumbs up. Ooh, a couple people. I'm not that sophisticated yet.
Yeah, the decanter basically just brings air into the wine and allows the wine to breathe. Obviously, if you've been tied up in a bottle for 5 years, you'd sort of come out a little restrained as well.
Okay, so we've got the results in for the GSM. We are sharing now for everybody.
Yeah, it looks good.
And Adam, we do have another question here in between all of the yelling about the Shirazes and the GSM.
Sure.
With people's tastes so varied, how and for whom do you design the wines to cater for?
Good question. Yeah, I think when I first started making wine, I had probably a big ego, and I used to make the wines for myself, and it wasn't until I realised that I've got to make a living out of it, and I had to go out and travel the world and talk to people about what styles of wine that they like, so I could make those styles. So I think generally, and having a cellar door is amazing, because we would have, had not the virus come, we would have seen some 12,000 visitors at our cellar door this year. And of course, I don't get to talk to all 12,000, but I often make little sort of hour cameo sort of visits into the cellar door to talk to customers about what they like, and because the styles change so from year to year, and so I'm 100% now making wine to what people like. Yeah, I've made very heavily wooded Chardonnays over the years, because that's what the public liked, and then went to unwooded Chardonnays, and then they didn't like those, and then now people are drinking more rosés, and people are drinking wines actually with less alcohol. So we're trying to make the wines not too alcoholic, and but with lower alcohol, with lots of flavour. And so yeah, we're sort of we're listening to people, yeah. And but I'm an old fella, yeah. I've sort of been there, done that. But some of the younger Turks tend to not to listen. They tend to go off on their own. But it's all about the consumer. You guys buy our wine, so we build our businesses and our livelihood around you.
Oh, I feel so special, Adam, and I
you
love
are
your wine,
you are
so.
Cheryl.
Aw, look at that, guys. He called me out. All right, Adam, why don't we go to our last one?
Okay, last one's the Cabernet in the Black Label range as well, with the Hogarth characters there, and this is a 2015 Cabernet. Once again, we're up to the 18 normally, but this is a cellar door product available to Wyflo customers, and of course, pouring that in the glass. Cabernet, as a rule, is a little lighter in colour than Shiraz. Shiraz is a bit darker and deeper and blacker. So you'll see this is a little bit more sort of light red, sort of from the tip of the glass down to the bottom, and so that's kind of one of the descriptors whether you can tell whether it's Shiraz or not, just by the colour. So this is typical Cabernet. So what we're getting on aromas are like cigar box or pencil shavings. That have you ever you probably have done this millions of times. Sharpened a pencil and opened up the little sharpener and just smelt inside it. And you've probably never done it, but it's good exercise. And I think when I was learning how to make wine, I used to sort of smell all sorts of different things. You know, that I could get into a little bit of trouble saying that, but that's one of the things that is so important to a winemaker, to be able to smell various components. And this is quite pencil shavings, cigar box, bit tobacco-y, and that comes from the oak that I use. And the oak that I use is Russian oak and American oak for this wine. And so the Russian oak is bathed in snow in summer and hot as all hell bathed in snow in winter, and then hot as all hell in summer. And so it gets seasoned very, very well and has a wonderful spiciness to it. And of course, this wine shows, you know, some spice as well on the aromas. So a little bit of black currant, just a little bit, just a tiny little bit. And then on the palate, once again, there's an explosion all the way around. Lovely mouthfeel and a what I call savouriness. And when I say savouriness, I mean a lovely mouthfeel that wants and tells you to go back and have another drink. A bit similar to when you're eating a packet of chips or your favourite dry crackers, you know. There's a savouriness there, you know, you're enjoying the taste and you kind of want more, you know, until the packet's finished. And so this wine here brings that savouriness to the forefront. It's a lovely wine that gives that sort of black currant and spice. And when I make my Cabernet, I don't put Merlot or Cab Franc or blend like the Bordelais do in France. They'll put Cab Franc or Cab Merlot. They'll put Merlot or Cab Franc or Cab Franc, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon. They'll blend 3 or 4 different varieties, you know, with it. So I tend to want the Cabernet to show its full, I suppose, intensity. And so generally all my wines are 95% Cabernet because I want them to be varietal and stand alone by themselves. And they do take some time to soften up as well. So I'm sort of not making my Cabernet wines to sort of drink in 1 or 2 years. You know, I'm trying to make them, you know, over a 15, 16, 17-year period.
So we do have a couple questions here, Adam, and I know we are nearly coming to the end, so I want to make sure that we get some of these questions in. What is your guilty pleasure wine?
My guilty pleasure wine? A good question. Oh, look, I'd have to say some Shiraz wines, wines that are, you know, like 8 to 10 years old, and they've lost a little bit of that sharpness, and they're sort of just starting to open up a bit. And then on a hot day, probably rosé. Yeah, I think I could probably drink 2 bottles of rosé on a very hot day. So that would be, 2 bottles of red in winter and 2 bottles of rosé in summer.
You and me both, Adam.
With great company, of course. So it's got to be with great company. You cannot drink wine on your own.
Oh, I must be doing it wrong then.
2 is a great bottle of wine. 3 is pushing it. 4, forget it.
Well, speaking of, we have another question here. How much wine do you recommend drinking or consuming, as a much more sophisticated word? How much wine do you recommend consuming per week? What is your recommendation to allow a well-rounded balance of wine?
You are really asking the wrong man, because I see a cardiologist regularly. So he says to me, Adam, you can have 3 to 4 glasses of wine per day, and I'm your friend and I'm your cardiologist. You have 5, you're in trouble. You have 6, and you get yourself a new cardiologist, he said. So I would recommend 2 to 3 glasses a day. That would be my recommendation.
That is
And-
excellent. I am following the recommended dosage.
And if you can have an AFD, then try and fit one in or two.
What's an AFD?
Alcohol-free day.
Yeah, I'll work towards that.
Okay.
Okay, let's continue on because we've got a couple more questions here. Hope everyone's
Yeah.
enjoying their wine here tonight. Adam, do you have any tips for how to best manage your cellar at home?
The best tip that I can tell people with their cellar is keep it at a consistent temperature. Wine doesn't really need to be at 18 or 16 or 15, nor does it really go that well when it's 40 degrees sitting on a mantelpiece with the sun coming in as well. So I would recommend, an area with consistent temperature, even it's sitting at sort of 21, 22 in winter and 21, 22 in summer or 24 in summer. Wine doesn't like a jump from 18 to 35. If it's sort of sitting at a jump of 2 or 3 degrees within a year, then it will sell very well. So that'd be my tip. Yep.
And what about if you live in an apartment on the 12th floor that gets a lot of sun? Not that I'm asking for me.
Find a cupboard that's very low and it's in the centre of your apartment.
Got it. I will work on that.
Even
Okay.
Even under the couch.
Under the couch. Oh, that actually could be an option. Thank you. Okay. What is your recommendation for someone who is trying to transition from beer to wine as a starting point?
Generally, and it depends on the age, but there's a well-known. There's been a lot of work done at university level on people's palates, and generally speaking, when you're a younger sort of 17 to 21, you have generally a sweeter craving on your palate, and then as you move through your 20s, it turns into dryness, and 30s, your palate becomes, cravings for dry. And then, of course, when you get into your 50s and 60s or 70s, it goes back to sweetness again. So I haven't reached the sweet level yet. I'm still in the dry area. So that means that I'm younger than 70. I would go from beer to wine just by trialing some white wine, having a look, maybe trialing some rosé, and working your way through to some of the lighter reds, and then start to develop a palate for those wines before you sort of hit in the big alcohol dark reds, from the Bros or McLaren Vale or Rutherglen or the Hunter doesn't have too many big reds these days, but so just transition your way through. Perhaps on a night, have a glass of white, glass of red, a glass of rosé, glass of red, and just see where your palate drives your craving.
Well, good thing that there's a platform where you can try lots of different wines from one place, hey?
But I do enjoy a beer myself, on a hot day.
Excellent. So, does anyone have any final questions for Adam? We've got the poll up from our last one, our last Cab Sav here. So as you can see, we've got, again, nobody gave you very many ones today, Adam. I don't know if that's, might just be they didn't want to insult you, but there were a lot of very positive comments, if not for the sake of fighting between people on the chat.
I think people are being kind, Cheryl, to me. Yeah,
probably. Now, Adam, for those who are submitting their descriptions for the contest, should they put them in the chat and we read them out, or
if someone's game enough to read them out and win their bottle of wine right now, I'll be able to give you the winner.
Okay, who wants to actually read theirs out? Because I know we've gotten a couple here. So, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give everyone a couple minutes to just write them out. Okay, so we'll just give you a couple of minutes to give everyone a fair chance. But I do know that we've got a couple, so I might let Chris has put his in here. So Chris, would you like to read yours out?
Sure. I've got to find it again. Because I just wrote it in the chat.
You did just write it in the chat. It's only like
Yeah.
four things up.
Oh, no, it was an earlier one, which is better.
Ah,
That was my wife's one. I'll do two. So first one is on the GSM. So that's like a long walk with a wet dog, full of pep, the occasional raspberry, and a long lingering finish.
That's a good one.
And this one's my wife's one. It's the rosé, copper in colour. Cop out it ain't. The flavour and finish will suit everyone's palate. The great social equalizer.
Ooh, I like that.
Chris and your wife